Chapter 3. Comfort versus Future Self. When comfort becomes the problem. Comfort is the most deceptive stage of success. It feels like an achievement. You've worked hard, hit your goals, and built a life that many others would envy. You've got stability, maybe recognition, maybe even wealth. And yet, comfort can quietly become the biggest obstacle to your future self. Why? Because comfort whispers the most dangerous words. This is enough. Stop here. When you're struggling, it's obvious you need to push forward. But when you're comfortable, it feels like you've already made it. That's exactly when the reset button is needed most. Not because you're failing, but because you're at risk of settling for less than who you could become. Comfort isn't evil. It's just sneaky. It disguises itself as peace, but underneath, it slows your curiosity, dulls your instincts, and erodes your hunger. It's like sitting beside a warm fireplace. You don't realize how still you've become until the fire burns out and the room turns cold. Pressing the reset button is that moment when you stand up, stretch, and decide to step outside again. The factory worker who stopped too soon. During a summer job as a student, I worked in a manufacturing plant. One of the men there had been working in the same place for more than 15 years. We became friends. One day, I asked him about his biggest success and biggest regret. He told me, "My dream was to come to Canada, get a good job, buy a car, and own a home for my family. I achieved it. I'm living my dream." Then he paused. "But my biggest regret is that I didn't think bigger. Ryan, you have to think bigger. So big that you laugh at it and don't even believe yourself at first. I couldn't see beyond my original dream, and now I know I could have achieved anything. But I stopped too soon." That conversation never left me. It showed me how dangerous it is to confuse achieving a dream with reaching your full potential. His dream wasn't wrong. It just wasn't big enough to serve his future self. When we don't update our dreams, they slowly expire. What once motivated us can eventually limit us if we never hit reset. My neighbors who built the perfect life. I also had neighbors who looked, from the outside, like they had it all. They had paid off an expensive home. They drove multiple luxury cars. They owned real estate that provided rental income. They had built the kind of life that promised security forever. They didn't have to work another day if they didn't want to. But when we visited them, it was clear something was wrong. They were frustrated, even though they were still young. The world was changing around them. Instead of feeling excited for the future, they felt left behind. Their assets were losing value. The job market had shifted so much that even if they wanted to, they couldn't step back into meaningful work. What they thought would be eternal comfort had quietly turned toxic. They had achieved the exact dream they set out for 20 years ago, but they never updated it. They had locked themselves into a story that was already finished, while the world kept moving forward. My wife put it best. The problem isn't that they failed. The problem is that their old goal was achieved, but they never replaced it with a new one. That's the danger of comfort. Success without renewal eventually turns into disappointment. That's why the reset button is so important. When you've successfully achieved your old goal, it's not the signal to stop. It's the signal to reset and create a new, bigger vision that matches who you've become. Choosing your future over your present. The current self seeks comfort. It wants safety, validation, to protect what's been earned. The future self, however, demands growth. It asks for risk, challenge, and a new vision. Pressing the reset button is choosing your future self over your current self. It doesn't mean abandoning the success you've already built. It means using it as the foundation for something greater. Your comfort zone is like a warm blanket around a volcano. On the surface, it feels calm, but underneath, there's energy waiting to erupt. If you ignore it, it cools into rock. If you respect it, you can channel that power into something new. What really keeps you comfortable? Comfort doesn't hold you back on its own. Something else is quietly protecting it, something deeper than routine or habit, something you rarely question because it feels like the way things are supposed to be. That something is belief. Comfort doesn't survive because life is easy. Comfort survives because your beliefs defend it. People often think comfort is created by external stability, a steady job, predictable income, familiar routines. But comfort is internal. It's shaped by the beliefs you carry about risk, change, ambition, and what you're allowed to want. These beliefs sound like, it's too risky to change what's already working. I shouldn't want more than this. Who am I to think bigger? People like me don't do things like that. If I leave this comfort, I might lose everything. None of these beliefs are dangerous individually, but together, they build a psychological fence around your life, a fence that keeps you safe but small. Comfort is not defined by your environment. Comfort is defined by the beliefs you refuse to outgrow. How your beliefs set your ceiling. Beliefs set the ceiling on your future long before you reach it. Your beliefs determine how much growth feels acceptable, how much effort feels worth it, how much risk feels reasonable, how much you think you deserve, and how big your dreams are allowed to be. If your beliefs stay small, your future stays small. Even if your abilities grow, even if your circumstances improve, even if opportunities appear, your beliefs will quietly pull you back to what feels familiar. This is why strong, capable people stay stuck for years. Their beliefs keep renewing the same version of life. The good job trap. There's a belief many people were raised with. Get a good job, stay loyal, and be grateful. It sounds simple, it sounds responsible, it sounds safe. But here's the hidden problem. That belief becomes an identity, and that identity shapes every decision you make. If you believe stability equals success, then promotions feel risky, business ideas feel unrealistic, ambition feels greedy, leaving a job feels disloyal, wanting more feels ungrateful. Your decisions become limited not by your potential, but by the belief you inherited. I've met people with incredible talent who never took a single step forward in their careers because of this belief. They weren't blocked by opportunity. They were blocked by a belief that comfort equals safety. One person told me, "I don't want to leave my job. It's a good job. I'd feel guilty if I asked for more." That belief kept them on the same path for 15 years, not because they weren't capable of more. They absolutely were. But their beliefs about loyalty and gratitude prevented them from resetting their direction. Once they reset the belief into something healthier, gratitude doesn't mean standing still. Their entire identity shifted. They didn't become a different person. They became the person they were always meant to be. This is what belief resets do. They free the future you've been blocking with outdated rules. How to reset the beliefs holding you back. When people try to grow, they usually focus on new habits, new goals, new routines, new strategies. But none of these stick if you don't reset the beliefs beneath them. You don't break comfort by pushing harder. You break comfort by updating the belief that tells you comfort is the safest option. Ask yourself, 1. What belief is keeping me here? 2. Who gave me this belief? 3. Does this belief still fit who I'm becoming? 4. What belief would my future self live by instead? Reset the belief, identity shifts. Identity shifts, decisions change, outcomes evolve. Comfort collapses when the belief that supports it disappears. This is why so many people stay stuck in comfort far longer than they should. It's not laziness, it's not a lack of ambition. It's the power of beliefs they never questioned. And now we can understand the next truth. Why don't people reset when they're comfortable, even when the future is calling them forward? Why we resist resetting. Comfort feels safe. Once you've reached stability, the thought of risking it again can feel terrifying. Social validation. People around you say, "You've made it, why push harder?" Fear of failure. It's easier to be successful at a small level than risk failing at a bigger one. But the cost of not resetting is higher than the cost of failure. If you stay loyal to comfort, you risk becoming trapped by a vision that no longer matches who you are. Growth doesn't always mean rebuilding everything. Sometimes it simply means asking better questions. 1. What if this isn't the final version of my dream? 2. What would my future self thank me for doing today? 3. Where am I safer than I should be? That last question is one of the hardest and most important. It forces you to confront the invisible limits that comfort creates. The professor who taught me about alignment. We often assume that the people ahead of us have already mastered the balance between comfort and growth. Mentors, leaders, people we admire. But sometimes they're quietly facing the same internal conflict we are. I learned this firsthand from someone I once looked up to deeply. When I finished my university degree and was preparing to start my career, I turned to a professor I deeply admired. To me, he represented everything I wanted to become: successful, respected, fulfilled. He taught construction and project management, ran his own developments, and was well known in the industry. He always seemed composed and confident, as if he had everything figured out. So one day, I asked him for advice. I told him I was unsure which direction to take, whether to focus on residential or commercial construction, management or development. I felt lost without a mentor to guide me. His answer completely changed how I viewed success. He paused for a moment, smiled, and admitted something I never expected. Even he didn't have it all figured out. Despite his success, he told me he felt stuck. He was being offered more promotions, more responsibility, more money, but none of it made him happier. What he really wanted was more time with his family. He wanted to be there as his kids grew up, to travel with his wife, to simply enjoy the life he had built. He explained that he was afraid to hit his own reset button. After spending decades building his career, the idea of slowing down or changing direction felt risky, almost like throwing away everything he had worked for. But deep down, he knew his priorities had shifted. That conversation stayed with me. It taught me that success isn't a destination. It's a moving target. As our lives evolve, so do our values and definitions of fulfillment. Sometimes, a reset doesn't mean starting over. It means realigning our goals with who we've become. At that moment, I realized how often we confuse progress with alignment. How easy it is to keep moving forward simply because we can, not because we should. It made me question whether I was chasing goals that still reflected my own values, or just continuing along a path that once did. For my professor, his reset didn't have to mean walking away from his career. It could have been as simple as negotiating a lighter workload, choosing projects that allowed more flexibility, or restructuring his schedule to make time for what truly mattered. The key lesson? Don't hesitate to pause and ask yourself whether your current path still reflects your true priorities. Because if you never stop to realign, you risk living someone else's version of success. The truth is, comfort can be just as addictive as ambition. Once we reach a certain level of success, it's easy to mistake motion for progress and activity for purpose. But real growth doesn't always come from pushing harder. Sometimes it comes from pausing. The reset button isn't a symbol of failure. It's a reminder that your direction matters more than your speed. When you stop to assess whether your actions still serve your future self, you take back control of your journey. That awareness is what separates people who merely maintain success from those who continuously evolve. And evolution doesn't always require a major overhaul. Sometimes it starts with small adjustments, one habit, one mindset shift, one courageous choice at a time. In the next chapter, we'll explore how small resets can create massive change. The kind of change that keeps you moving forward without losing who you are along the way. 1. Reset question. If your success stayed the same, but your time with the people you love doubled, would that feel like progress? 2. Reset question. Which single adjustment, scope, schedule, or standards would realign your week with your true priorities? 3. Reset question. Where are you moving fast in the wrong direction, and what small reset would correct your course today? Don't let comfort become your cage. Comfort is not the end goal. The most dangerous thing you can ever say is, "I've made it." The reset button protects you from that trap. It reminds you that when you've achieved your dream, it's time to reset, to expand the vision, and to build a new path forward. Comfort is for the present self. The future belongs to the person who is willing to reset. Because if you don't, your comfort today becomes your cage tomorrow. Growth isn't always about changing what you do. Sometimes it's about changing where you are and who you're surrounded by. The truth is, even the strongest mindset can't thrive in the wrong environment.